is The Sports Life.
0-1 to Terry, slapped on the ground. Erickson at third, gobbles it up, throw to first. She got her in time. Payne is picked up by her third baseman. The Wolverines all storm out of the dugout. There's a party in the circle. Michigan wins the Big Ten Tournament Championship for the second year in a row. 4 days, 4 games, and 4 wins for Michigan.
Nice call by Alex Miller as the Wolverines win back-to-back Big Ten Tournament titles, as he said. And that was just a capstone for the Big Ten in terms of softball. 8 teams make the NCAA tournament, and that is pretty impressive.
Absolutely it is.
Well, this show we have lined up for you is pretty interesting. And we have a cover story that talks about a tradition at Purdue University that I don't think many people know about.
And I think they're going to enjoy listening and finding out what that is, that tradition there at Mackey. But I also do want to highlight what we're going to be talking about in the show with Eben Novy-Williams of Sportico, because you might be hearing with college football teams or basketball teams, hey, there's a GM, and it's some celebrity, or it's just a front office person who's been at the professional ranks for a while. What does it all mean? We get a little bit more insight and clarity to what's happening in college sports with Eben.
Well, we're going to revisit now the year 2010 in the Big Ten, some of the highlights of that year, and 2010 looked like it was pretty good.
Absolutely. As we get closer and closer and we go through the summer, we'll be counting the years up to the kickoff of the college football season. So we're going to revisit each of those years leading up to it. We'll start with 2010, but before we even jump back in the DeLorean to go back to 2010, you mentioned Michigan back-to-back Big Ten softball tournament champions. After the game, after their victory, head coach Bonnie Thole was talking with the Big Ten Network, and here's what she had to say about her team's win in performance.
It's unbelievable. I'm so incredibly happy for the group and for the seniors that led us. And, you know, this season, I say it all the time, it is an investment, right? And I tell them all the time, you know how you become a millionaire? You invest all you have in all your accounts. The most you have, the most energy, the most effort you have, you give to the program, you give to each other. And like a season, the market goes up and down, the season goes up and down, but you stay the course, and the reward is coming, the benefit is coming, the millions are coming, and it happened today.
And think about this, Dalton. Bonnie's only in her 3rd year as the head coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she talks about investing. She's invested almost 30 years before she even got this opportunity. That's how long she's been on that staff.
And got to hang around with a legend forever, right? Carol Hutchins waited her turn and now able to take Michigan to back-to-back softball tournament championships. But you mentioned 2010 was a year to remember for the Big Ten, so let's go ahead and start playing through some of the different highlights. We'll go to the regular season in basketball, where Michigan State won a good one down the road at Michigan on the heels of a Kaylin Lucas game-winning jumper. Here's what it sounded like.
15 seconds to go. Now to Chris Allen. He breaks towards the circle. In the wing, Darrell Summers. 8 seconds to go in the game. 6 seconds. Lucas fires for the win. He got it! He got it! Oh, my goodness. 3.5 to go, and Michigan State is up by 1, 57-56.
And just like in Minnesota on Saturday, the big-time player took the big-time shot and nailed it. Way to go, Kaylin Lucas.
Well, he made a bunch of those. There's no doubt. But when you can make that kind of shot against your rival, Michigan, that even makes it better.
Oh, that's one of those sweet moments to remember and hang on to. And actually, as the season would unfold and the story would unfold for that Michigan State team heading into March Madness, Kaylin Lucas ends up with an injury, and there's questions about, who fulfills some of the scoring, who hits the big-time shots, and we get the answer in 2010 in the round of 32 as the Spartans battled the Terrapins, not in the Big Ten at the time, were the Maryland Terrapins, but it came down to the wire, and Corey Lucius hits the game-winning shot. We bring you the ridiculous back-and-forth sequence to finish out this classic.
The ball comes in to Lucius. Here we go. 25 to go on the shot clock. Michigan State down by 1. With the ball roll. Roll, bounce pass to Green on the side. Here's the shot. He got it! He got it! Michigan State by a point. We've got 18 seconds to go. And now Maryland will get the final shot of the game. Vasquez has it. He'll want to shoot it. He's spinning. Here comes the shot. Bank shot is good. Maryland's back up by 1. We got 6 seconds to go. Green is on the run for Michigan State. Now to Lucius for 3 and the win. He got it! He got it! He got it! At the buzzer! Woo! Unbelievable! At the buzzer! Oh my goodness!
And his teammates are swarming him on the baseline. What a shot by Corey Lucius.
It's amazing, Dalton. Those 3 shots that were made, right? I thought Green had the winner, and I'm sure Maryland, when they made their basket, they had the winner, and nobody thought Lucius would have the winner.
A lot of people didn't see it coming. It seems like the only person who saw it coming might have been Delvon Rowe, because the story is Draymond Green races down, throws the pass to Corey Lucius, and in the crossfire is Delvon Rowe, who seemingly just ducks out of the way of that pass, Will, and it became known as ducking Delvon around Michigan State.
Well, it was a good duck.
It sure was a good duck. Let's listen to the final accounts and testimonies of those 3. Delvon Rowe, Corey Lucius, who hit the shot, and head coach Tom Izzo. This is what they all had to say after.
I saw everything coming. I was the last person down the floor, so I saw what he was trying to do. So I knew he wasn't throwing me. I knew he saw Corey, and I ducked out. I got up quick enough to just nip a little bit of the defender so Corey can get a good look at the basket.
It was a great reflex by him, because if it would have hit him, man, we probably wouldn't have got the shot up. So I'm happy he had those kind of cat-like reflexes to move and get out the way.
No, the truth is I called timeout. Draymond told me to go to hell and got the thing done. I mean, that's the kind of relationship we have. You know, it's a love-hate relationship. He listened to me when it was convenient for him, and he didn't listen to me when it wasn't. And thank God that was one time he didn't listen to me.
It was interesting, Tom mentions about that timeout, but the truth of it is, when Green is racing down the floor, and we've told this story before, Tom stood up and he was ready to call timeout, and he changed his mind, which was good.
Hey, how about that?
Yeah.
Amazing how things unfold and play out from there. We also had another game winner in the year 2010, a buzzer beater, and this one is a classic as well. The Big Ten tournament, Ohio State and Michigan. It ends off the fingertips of Evan Turner, who drills a ridiculous shot to win it and send the Wolverines home. We'll start with the Buckeye perspective of things with the voice of Ohio State, Paul Keels, and then we'll hear what the other side, the side of agony, sounded like in those moments with, at that time, the voice of the Wolverines, Matt Shepard.
David Leidy will be the inbounder from the back baseline. Inbounds Turner, left side of the backcourt. Turner across the timeline, throws it from high on the right. He hit it, Evan Turner! He hit it just inside of half court. Evan Turner at the buzzer knocks down a long 3 from high on the right. You gotta be kidding, as Evan Turner hits a shot that everybody dreams of.
Leidy, here's that quickly to Turner. Turner from midcourt, good look. Oh no!
They're going to check it. I think he made it, though. I think it's good. Where'd he go?
He's assessing things.
Where's the play-by-play guy?
Just as stunned, partner. I don't know what to say.
You see, the guy shot it from 24 feet, 25 feet.
Well, if you've called enough games, you've been on both sides of that coin, and I'd rather be on Paul Keel's side. But when you think about it, the Big Ten tournament, we've had a lot of those kind of games.
Mm-hmm.
And I know way back in the dark ages when there was the great debate, do we or don't we have such a tournament? Well, I kind of enjoy it myself personally. But look at these moments we have, and they live forever.
Oh, you're absolutely right. They build some legacies, right? I mean, I do word association of Evan Turner at Ohio State, and that's one of the first memories that I think of. But you talk about this tournament. As a fan, if you just go with your friends, your family, and you just want to sit and watch basketball all day, there's not much better than the Big Ten basketball tournament. But that's enough basketball. Let's segue over to football, where in the Big Ten in 2010, there was a thriller at the Big House. Michigan and Illinois coming down to the wire. Final score 67-65 in triple overtime. The Wolverines would prevail. And here's what the final play sounded like in the final call with Michigan.
And in the backfield, in the pistol, you've got LaShore with Shieldhouse.
He's got the snap. He's going to throw. Blitz coming. He's in trouble. He is sacked. He throws it away. He's sacked. Michigan wins the ball game in 3 overtimes in one of the most thrilling games in Big House history. Jonas Mouton came up with the game-winning play to take Michigan back to a bowl game once more after a 2-year hiatus.
Frank Beckman, the legendary voice of the Wolverines. Isn't it amazing to think that he's pretty jacked up about the fact they beat Illinois? Mm-hmm. Not Ohio State, Illinois. And so I always thought that was interesting, that call, even though that was an unbelievable game. And Brett Bielema, by the way, inked a new 6-year contract with the Illini as head football coach.
How about that? Big news.
So he'll have enough to buy us dinner when we go to Champaign someday.
And see, maybe he can hang 65 at the Big House in a winning effort for the Illini.
There you go.
Like it was in 2010. But how about that 67-65? And, I mean, you talk about how excited it was to beat Illinois from the Michigan perspective. The other thing I took away from that call, Will, is said to take Michigan to a bowl game for the first time after a 2-year hiatus. How things have changed when you're talking about what Michigan had been able to accomplish in the late stages under Harbaugh just a few years ago.
Well, a lot of things might be different in Michigan football in front of us. We just don't know yet.
Yeah, no, that's certainly a good point.
But it's not Bo Schembechler's Michigan or Lloyd Carr's Michigan or Fielding Yost's Michigan. You just keep going backwards, right?
That's right.
Not that Michigan.
Well, we got another football game. This one, a pretty good rivalry. The Old Oaken Bucket. Purdue and Indiana step in between the lines each year trying to fight for this thing. And in 2010, Indiana would claim the Old Oaken Bucket thanks to a game-winning field goal. They win it 34-31. Here's what it sounded like in the late stages of the game to get the ball to the Hoosiers before putting it on the foot to split the uprights, courtesy of the legendary voice, Don Fisher.
They're going to run the boot to the top of the field here.
Here's Henry.
Bottom
Rolls to
field.
his right. Looks to throw it. Does throw it. Picked off! Jeff Thomas! Jeff Thomas came up with an interception! And Indiana will have a chance to win this football game. Mitch Ewald will try to win this football game for Indiana. Jeff Sanders will snap it. Here's the hold. The kick is up. And the kick is good! And Indiana's won it. They beat Purdue. And they'll win the Old Oaken Bucket back to take to Bloomington.
Don Fisher. You know, it's amazing. I think he just finished his 52nd or 53rd year. And you know what? He sounds exactly the same.
He sure does.
It's unbelievable. I mean, he's like, they just put new batteries in him and he keeps going. He's so good. He's just so good.
Certainly one of the best. And I'll ask you this too, Will, before you end up getting us to a break. The Old Oaken Bucket, among the Big Ten trophies, I think it's up there. What do you got in front of the Old Oaken Bucket?
I think you're absolutely right, Dalton, and here's why. Purdue, Indiana. They're right there, like Michigan State, Michigan, right?
Proximity.
And so this has a great story behind the Old Oaken Bucket, and it wasn't some contrived thing. You know what I mean? Well, we need a trophy game here. Let's do this one. Well, they don't mean that much, but this one means something. Paul Bunyan means something. Mm-hmm. When Ohio State plays Michigan, it means something. These rivalries aren't contrived. Their little brown jug means something. And so I wish we'd just quit creating these goofy games and stick with the ones that mean something.
This is one of the classics, that's no doubt.
The Old Oaken Bucket. I still can hear Keith Jackson whipping that out. It's so good.
It is.
Well, when we come back with more of the Sports Life, a look at what's going on behind the scenes of college sports in just a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
If you have diabetes, listen up. If you have insurance, you can qualify for a continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends and spend more time in range, significantly lowering your A1C. More importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and if you've seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for your own CGM right now. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances will cover your CGM, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the Aptiva Medical CGM Health Hotline right now.
800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. That's 800-948-6912.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Roxanne Watson is on a mission.
Hello, how are you doing today?
She wants more people to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Are you an organ donor? Yes, I am. Yay.
My goal is to sign up the most people in the United States.
What drives her? Roxanne's own life was saved through the gift of a heart transplant, made possible by an organ donor.
I decided that day that I was going to devote myself to the cause of organ donation and signing people up and honoring my donor by doing that.
Now she's back to health, and she's a powerful force helping to save lives every day through her work. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life.
8 people can be helped with the major organs, and up to 50 people can be helped with a little bit of everything. And when you think about it that way, that you could help that many people, it's amazing. It really is.
Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Team in here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, last week, Eben Novy-Williams of Sportico visited with Dalton and I. We talked about gambling and how the NCAA is embracing it to a point. Well, we've asked Eben to rejoin us. And by the way, thanks for coming back another week, Eben, to talk about this brand new opportunity out there in sports administration, collegiately speaking. All of a sudden, we have this new job creeping up everywhere called general manager, which is sort of a thing we've always had in the pros, but now we have them in the colleges and universities. So, Eben, talk to us about how all of a sudden being a head coach wasn't good enough. Now we got to have a general manager. How's this whole thing working?
Essentially, the easiest way I can describe it is the new and the settlement that is underway right now in college sports that is going to clear the way for revenue sharing directly with athletes. Now that schools are going to be sharing directly money with athletes, their rosters look more like professional rosters, right? There's money allocation, and there's roster building, and there's salaries, and there's deal making. A lot of things that college coaches, look, I'm not naive. College coaches have been doing some of that for decades, but it has now reached a point of professionalization that it is not all that realistic to expect Dabo Swinney to be able to do this on his own, right? So the rise of the college GM, particularly in men's basketball and in football, and we're going to see it in women's basketball, I think, to a degree as well, is essentially the recognition that the way that you build rosters in college sports now is fundamentally different than it was 3 years ago. And whereas in the past, your coach could fly around the country and sit in living rooms and convince as many good players as he or she could that they should come play on your campus, now there's a financial component in here, and there is an accounting component, and there is figuring out allocation and best use of that money, and as players leave or transfer, money freeing up and where you allocate that. That's a different job. And it's a different job than coaching. So yeah, I think that's the easiest way to describe it, is that all these big time college football and basketball programs are now realizing that in addition to the coach, they need a professional in here that can do the roster building part of their business as well.
Well, and Eben, that covers the need of it, right? Like, that makes sense. It's a logical step. But where this really starts to lose me or get a little bit wonky for me is in college men's basketball at Sacramento State, meet your new GM, Shaquille O'Neal. Or you go to Stanford and there's Andrew Luck out there. Or how about Eastern Michigan assistant GM Max Crosby while he's actively playing in the NFL? I don't understand how any of this works.
It's a great question, Dalton, and I think you're seeing in some ways the layers of sophistication, also the layers of money that you see at sports, right? In basketball, Sacramento State's GM is Shaquille O'Neal, and nothing against Shaq, right? He knows a lot about basketball. He's a huge name. He probably has some recruiting value, but Shaq is not a professional GM experienced executive, right? And then you look on the other end, and Bill Belichick brought in Mike Lombardi, who was a GM in the NFL with the Cleveland Browns. So you're going to see a wide gamut, as you said, of assistant GMs that are active NFL players, right? And I would argue that's more of kind of a marketing honorarium in some ways than it is an actual kind of hands in the grass, actually working the rosters, all the way up through, again, you're going to see it at Notre Dame and at UNC and at Texas Tech, who hired another player from James Blanchard, who came from the NFL, not a player, an executive. I think you're going to see just varying levels of sophistication here. But at the top tier, they're going to be filling these jobs with people who have done these jobs at the highest level of the NFL or Major League Baseball or other sports previously to joining college sports.
Evan, I don't know if this is a fair question yet because this whole thing is still developing, but you have an athletic director, now you're having a general manager, and let's say football, a head football coach. Who's the boss?
It's a great question, and that also varies per campus, right? There are campuses where your college football coach still is the most powerful person on your campus. And that's going to remain true for a large number of the big Power 5 schools. There are other schools where the athletic director, who is kind of de facto the actual boss, where he or she is actually the one in charge. The GM, I think, there's not going to be many places where at least right now, where the GM reigns supreme. It's just that they're getting paid significantly less than or your top football coaches are making $10 million a year. Your top GMs are going to be making maybe a quarter of that maximum, right? So from a financial standpoint, maybe is the easiest way to answer that question, Will. And in almost every situation, your college football coach is making more than your athletic director or your GM. And there's going to be the dynamic between GM and coach is going to be fascinating, because a lot of these coaches are used to being the sole arbiter of what happens with their program. And in some cases, the GM may report to the coach. In some ways, it may be clear that the coach is the final be-all, say-all of decisions. But adding another alpha decision maker into that equation, you're right, you can certainly see a world where that presents some problems at certain schools, depending on the egos and the people involved.
That will certainly be fascinating to watch how that develops. But, Eben, I do want to follow up again on a curiosity, because we talked about some of the GMs and some of the high-profile ones. And assistant GM, you mentioned that this is really good maybe for some recruiting value. Maybe it just helps the program, like Max Crosby at Eastern Michigan for football, or Steph Curry is assistant GM now for Davidson while he's playing in the NBA playoffs. And my question to you is, just to fully understand all of it, does it open up any other doors? How does it help the athletes? Or are they just doing a nice thing for their alma maters? And does it open a door for where they can provide some funding for these programs? Is that a next step?
It's already happening. So I think Max Crosby, so you mentioned him at Eastern Michigan. He is going to get the GM, assistant GM title. He's also donating $1 million to Eastern Michigan University. I think Trey Young, who is the assistant GM, basketball GM for Oklahoma, same thing. I think there was a 7-figure donation that came along with that. I could argue that for these kind of honorary assistant GM positions, that they are essentially, Dalton, selling the job title. I'm sure Max has been very involved in Eastern Michigan. I'm sure he cares a lot about that program and does want to do work and help when possible to make the Eastern Michigan football program rise in stature. But he gave $1 million and was given this title. Steph Curry has done a lot for Davidson already just by being Steph Curry. He's done a lot for Davidson in addition to just being Steph Curry by actually being involved there. But yeah, I think in a lot of ways you can look at these things as kind of title for sale in some capacity. And why not, right? If you can get $1 million from one of your most famous alumni who is still an active player in the sport that you're trying to recruit players and prove to them that you can come to this school, you can come to Davidson or Eastern Michigan and you can be one of the best players at your position in the greatest league on earth. The closer you can hold those guys to your program, the better, right? So again, I don't expect Max Crosby to be involved in really any capacity in roster building at Eastern Michigan, but I can definitely see a world where if there is a high profile recruit that Eastern Michigan really does think they have a chance to get, and a phone call from Max Crosby or in the offseason bringing the kid and Max is there, where that actually does tip the scale. Yeah, there's tremendous value there. So I would separate just mentally the kind of GM job at a lot of these schools from these kind of honorary assistant GM jobs, because I do think that they are fundamentally different.
Which seems to make a little bit of sense. Now, when we come back after the break, our conversation with Eben Novy-Williams from Sportico will continue after this timeout.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical exams, your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a pauper's grave in a potter's field.
800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. That's 800-562-2407. Paid for by Final Expense Direct.
We all make choices about alcohol. Kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad. Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, Em, remind me about that party again?
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations, and they want honest answers in everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path, because when you talk, they hear you. Learn more at underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Here's a real-life story that affects 50% of all of us out there. It's called divorce. If you've gotten divorced and now you're struggling to pay your bills and your credit card debts are completely out of control, you need to call this special debt relief hotline right now. We help people with all kinds of money problems caused by different life challenges, a divorce, a job loss, even heavy medical bills. All these life events can sometimes financially stress you out and cause you to get out of control. We help people get their lives back by showing them ways to consolidate and reduce their debt, in some cases for a fraction of what they owe. If your credit card balances are more than $10,000, call us and learn how to reduce your credit card bills and monthly payments now. Here's our number.
Paid for by Debt.com. Call now, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584. That's 800-810-1584.
Welcome back for more of the Sports Life. We'll team here along with Dalton Shetler. Now, before our conversation with Eben Novy-Williams of Sportico continues, I have to let you know that auto owners insurance, simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you. Okay, Eben, you had mentioned 3 years ago like it was the dark ages. So
it feels that way, doesn't it?
Sure, it really does. It really does. As this whole thing is evolving, you think it's going to be better for the sport in general? And I guess I'm broad stroking here, college athletics.
It's such a good question and such a tough one to ask. I think it kind of depends on what you as a fan like about college sports. I mean, there's a chance, and I don't want to be too doomsday here. There is a chance that we have headed down a path, an irreversible path towards blowing up college sports as an entity entirely. And again, I don't want to be too doomsday here, but this entire enterprise was built around the idea that athletes were not compensated. There is no proof at all, in my opinion, that this thing does work in a world where athletes are properly compensated. And everybody is kind of trying to shoehorn the old model about amateur athletes and really robust multi-sport schools and all of that into a new model where at least football and basketball players are getting some form of compensation for the work that they're doing. And yeah, I do think it remains an open question when all of this dust settles and everybody starts to get what is probably rightfully theirs financially, what that actually means for college sports as a whole, about funding other programs, about the way that fans feel about these endeavors, about what college gymnastics or what college field hockey actually looks like and has finances for in this world. I think in some ways, we don't know. We're heading into very uncharted territory where we are, again, trying to shoehorn kind of modern fair equity pay practices into an endeavor that was built literally on the idea that doesn't need to happen. And we'll see. It's going to be you're right. 3 years ago feels like it is kind of 8 generations ago. And I think in 2 or 3 years, we'll probably look back at 2025 and think, oh man, wasn't that quaint when it was just one GM and not 6 GMs and X or Y. So yeah, we'll see, I think in the next, let's call it 5 or 10 years, but I think there's a chance that it gets very, very messy and way messier than even the last 3 years have shown.
It's just wild. I do want to ask you, though, too, because you talk about, I mean, right now you get AGM. Maybe there's a day where you have 6 or something like that. We're all still kind of juggling the idea of maybe revenue sharing in college sports, and that kind of creates the budgets for these GMs to maybe work within. We still don't maybe have a clear picture. Maybe you could draw or illustrate it a little bit better if I'm off here, but how some of this works. Do student athletes sign contracts that then forego their NIL rights outside of the institution and whatever their agreed deal is? And then does that mean the GM then has to facilitate all those NIL deals? If those contracts don't even exist, Eben, do GMs end up start negotiating for NIL outside the institution for athletes? It seems like this could all really branch off.
A lot of these are, in some ways, still open questions. The first part I can actually answer. Yeah, for the past few months, as we were approaching the House settlement being finalized and expectations that it would be finalized, schools are already putting contracts in front of players, and players are already signing these contracts essentially under the auspice that come next fiscal year, come the start of the new school year this summer, that those will start under the new rubric. So assuming that if you're a big-time college football GM, your school has $20.5 million of revenue to share with athletes for that year. And yeah, you are inking these deals already. You're telling athletes, here's what we're going to give you, here's what you're getting, here's what the contract looks like, here's what happens if you leave. And you're trying to allocate that money. And then on top of that, because it's not like your athletes are only going to get $20 million. On top of that, there are the NIL deals that you're talking about. And those NIL deals outside of the $20 million have to be quote unquote fair market value for the athlete. So you can't pay your star quarterback $5 million to show up to one gala for 5 minutes. That is not fair market value, right? So now the schools also have to figure out some way under what the NCAA is calling a lot more transparency, trying to figure out, okay, we've got $20 million we can give out however we want. After that, and there's a lot of money after that for these big programs, after that, we need to figure out what fair market value looks like for each of these athletes. We have to run that by the NCAA and Deloitte, which is the NCAA's clearinghouse. And however they are going to assess what your star quarterback is worth, or what his time is worth, or what his signatures are worth, or what a speech from him is worth, or what appearing in an advertisement is worth, we have to operate within that rubric. So yeah, there's a whole lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of questions about how Deloitte is going to actually make that determination, and whether they're going to be extremely permissive or if they are going to scrutinize every single deal that schools put in front of them outside of that $20 million. But yeah, if you're a GM, yeah, you're thinking about the $20.5 million because that's the easy money. That's the stuff you can just sign your contracts and be done with. And then you're thinking about the extra NIL on top of it, which again comes with this added complication of, oh, someone else has to look at this deal and say, that seems fair. We're going to allow that, as opposed to what is happening now, right? Where there are so many NIL deals being done where the deliverables are laughably small because there's no enforcement mechanism. There's no actual rules around it. All those deals are theoretically now, with Deloitte being part of this process, now have to be slightly more legitimate, have to be more structured, have to be more in line with what an actual fair market transaction might look like. And nobody knows exactly what that's going to look like because we've never had it before.
Well, so what's the new hole that a big donor decides to poke in here if they want to buy the best player? Like, what's the loophole they take if this is the structure?
There's so many loopholes, right? It's either you figure out what the new structure looks like and you structure something kind of right in the middle of what is permissible. There's also the way it used to be, right? Which is brown bags of cash, right? Which is still happens a bit today, and it is certainly going to happen in the future as well, right? The idea, and I think some astute coaches have picked up on this, but the idea that $20 million is going to become the cap for big time colleges to funnel money to athletes is just laughable, right? There's no way that your biggest schools are going to stop at that amount. So yeah, I think the answer is there's many ways, and some of them look more legitimate than others. But as we talk about this arms race and this money race in college sports, there's a few schools that have way more funds than everybody else, and they are going to find ways to get those funds to athletes if they believe that is the best way to flex their competitive advantage.
Well, we have been visiting with Eben Novy-Williams from Sportico, and before we let you go, Eben, if somebody wants to read your work, where do they go?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Will. Sportico.com is the website where me and my colleagues write all about the business of sports. So team sales, big sponsorships, the changing economics of college sports. I'm also on Twitter at Novy_Williams, and I'm giving some of my musings there as well. And then lastly, we have a podcast as well, the Sporticast, which comes out twice a week. So many different ways that folks can, if they want more sports business information, follow me or follow Sportico. We've got you covered.
Well, the landscape is fruitful, right?
There's no slow days, as you guys know. It is, if you like news and you like intrigue, college sports is a fount of both right now.
Eben, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
There you go, some real insight from Eben Novy-Williams of Sportico. Well, when we come back with more of the Sports Life, one of our more interesting cover stories, right after this.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of uncertainty lurking under your hood. You know the feeling. I know I do. That sudden sinking sensation when you see a check engine light or your car unexpectedly breaks down and you're faced with sky-high repair bills. It's time to shield against unexpected repairs with CarShield. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Don't let the fear of a breakdown keep you up at night. Trust the Shield, CarShield, and say goodbye to terrifying repair bills and hello to peace of mind. Your plan also comes with 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental car options, and so much more. Don't wait till it's too late. Call CarShield now before a breakdown. Protect your wallet. Protect your car with CarShield. Get our best protection ever. Call now. You'll thank me later. 800-965-1292. 800-965-1292. That's 800-965-1292.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment, email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, in 1971, fresh off of earning a degree from Southern Illinois and an Army tour, John Sautter landed in West Lafayette, Indiana as the new assistant manager of Wiley Residence Hall. By 1996, he had become a Purdue vice president, overseeing the university residences, food stores, the Purdue Memorial Union, the Union Club Hotel, Boiler Television, the Elliott Hall of Music and Hall of Music Production, the Loeb Playhouse, Fowler Hall, and the Slater Center for Performing Arts, which I think redefines the word impressive. Then he would move on to become a driving force within the Purdue Alumni Association before he called it a career after 50 years. But this amazing administrative run at Purdue is not why John Sautter is this week's cover story. You see, back in 1981, he was offered an opportunity that on the surface seemed to have little to do with his then day-to-day duties at Purdue. The job title was visiting team host.
Back in around 1980, 81 or so, I'm a young administrator working my way up, looking for a variety of opportunities wherever I can. And at the time, I was giving talks on leadership and motivation to fraternities, sororities, housing groups, community school systems, teacher groups, anybody I could find. And a friend of mine who had the job said, you know, you ought to think about doing this job because you could see leadership and motivation in real time. And I think you could use some of those examples in the speeches that you give. And he was leaving in 81. He said it's a little time intensive. It takes about 5 hours every game. I had a young family at the time. But again, looking for exposure. So I said, I think I'll give that a shot. I think I'll give it a try, maybe for a few years. And what I found was that it was so interesting meeting these different personalities and, in fact, seeing leadership and motivation and all the dynamics involved behind the scenes. I've just continued doing it, and 44 years later, I'm still enjoying it.
John performs his visiting team host duties in the home of Purdue basketball, Mackey Arena. named after his legendary athletic director of 29 years, Guy Red Mackey, who, by the way, came up with the idea for this position in the first place.
Actually, it was started by Guy Red Mackey back in the 50s, actually when the team played in Lambert Fieldhouse. And the concept he came up with is that he wanted an adult to be able to take care of the visiting team. He didn't want a student manager to kind of be a gopher and just do what he was told to do, but he wanted somebody a little bit more mature to greet the coach, the players, the team personnel, visiting guests, dignitaries, athletic director, sometimes even the university president would come along. So he created the position of the visiting team host, and it's been there ever since.
Well, now that we know who created the position of visiting team host and why, and how John Sautter became the host, it's now time to talk about the actual task of the position.
Well, even before the team arrives, I have a letter I send to all coaches prior to, about 2 weeks before the game. I still use letters. One year I tried to use emails, trying to be a little bit more tech savvy, but a lot of coaches won't share their emails, and you have to go through somebody else. And letters have become pretty unique, so I still send a letter 2 weeks in advance to returning coaches. It's brief. To brand new coaches, I explain what I'll be doing once they arrive. During the game, I sit right behind the bench in case some needs would come up. We're not allowed to cheer where we sit, but we sit immediately behind the bench, and in case something comes up during the game. Actually, there's 2 coaches that would not let us sit behind the bench. One was Dean Smith from North Carolina. He turns around and saw me and said, "John, I'm sorry, I'm superstitious. I can't have you sit this close." And so that was fine. The other one is Bob Knight. In about 1987 or so, there was a fan sitting next to me who normally isn't there, a Purdue fan, who just got too vocal. And he turned around and, in no uncertain terms, asked us to leave. I never sat behind the Indiana bench after that.
Since 1981, John has visited with many visiting coaches and no doubt has a few favorites.
I think it's well over 300 coaches, close to 70 alone in the Big Ten. Because the unique thing about the Big Ten, I think 6 of the teams have had 7 coaches in the time that I've been hosting. And Michigan State and Purdue being the exceptions, we've only had 2. So it's well over 300. And just to name a few of those coaches, you know, it's Bob Knight and Judd Heathcote, Jim Dutcher, Lute Olson, I go back that far, Bo Ryan, Tom Izzo, of course, Lou Henson, and then nationally, Mike Krzyzewski, Dean Smith, John Calipari, Danny Crum, Ray Meyer, and on the list goes. One of my favorites was Judd Heathcote. Judd, very personable, great sense of humor. And I mentioned the letters that I used to send. He would write back very, very humorous letters. And I've got 4 3-ring notebooks full of all the letters I've received from these different coaches. But Judd was just kind of fun to be around. Just a great guy. Homer Drew from Valpo. I liked him a lot. Very personable. Did not take himself seriously, as most coaches at this level don't at this point. But he was always nice, well aware of the team and me and what's going on, and had interesting motivational techniques, you know, for his team. And so those were 2 that jumped out. Currently, I'd say probably Tom Izzo is one of my favorites. Again, a friendly guy, nice to be around. Those would be the folks that come to mind.
Well, after working some 600 games and counting at Purdue's Mackey Arena over a span of some 44 seasons, this is what John Sautter believes he will take away from the task of being the visiting team host.
I think I'm going to take away really a feeling of pride in terms of mission accomplished. You know, when I was the vice president for housing and food services, we ran a first-class operation. We were recognized nationally for a lot of things we did. Just provided a great student experience at a world-class, first-class university. And then I felt myself in this role, I kind of wanted to do that same thing. As be as helpful as possible, do whatever we possibly could, even with the visiting team coming in, to make that experience as good as possible, even with some significant rivals. And I guess I take away a good feeling that over the years, we've done that, and we've done it in good style. And I think the thanks that I usually get from a lot of the coaches kind of confirms that.
John Sautter, Purdue's visiting team host, our cover story for this show. And we might also add that Purdue started doing this in 1946, as we have mentioned. And to this moment in time, they're the only Big Ten team that does it this way. Back with more of the Sports Life in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little, but thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt, that's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-298-9093. 800-298-9093. 800-298-9093. That's 800-298-9093.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. Learn more at wearebroadcasters.com/hope. Furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is the Sports Life.
I found hope in the midst of an overwhelming situation.
Alcoholism is a disease that can affect any family. Everyone suffers, but there is help and hope at Al-Anon Family Groups.
Al-Anon gave me my life back. I'm a better father and husband.
Are you in an overwhelming situation because of someone else's drinking? Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Local and virtual meetings are available. Maybe one could work for you. Call 1-866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
I'm Naheem Hines, professional football player. No matter the challenges I face every day in the NFL, my mom is always there for me, despite her own struggles with muscular dystrophy. And MDA is there for my mom. At their 150 care centers across the U.S., MDA is the leading organization in research and care for kids and adults with muscular dystrophy, ALS, and related neuromuscular diseases. Join me and learn more at helpmda.org today. Thank you.
Welcome back from Other Sports Life. We'll team in here along with Dalton Shetler. Interesting show this week. Some real insight into what's going on behind the scenes in college sports, courtesy of Eben Novy-Williams of Sportico. And what a fun cover story with John Sautter of Purdue. Well, also, I had got a big kick out of reliving some of the great moments of 2010. But I know it's still better stuff to come because it's the parting shots.
That's absolutely right. And hey, by the way, if you missed any of that, make sure you give us a follow on Twitter or X. @SportsLifeNow is our handle. That's again @SportsLifeNow. For my parting shot, I want to move the spotlight back over to the WNBA because something pretty special here has happened. Again, last week we brought to your attention that Caitlin Clark went back to Carver Hawkeye Arena, right, and played in Iowa City, a WNBA preseason game. Got a chance to reunite with the fan base at the collegiate level. Well, this has happened again with a bit of a Big Ten twist. Sabrina Ionescu, also a pretty big deal in women's basketball, goes back to the University of Oregon, taking her WNBA defending champion New York Liberty with her to play the Toyota Antelopes of Japan, where they come away with an 84-61 win, and the former Ducks shined in this one. Sabrina Ionescu ends up with 25 points, had 6 threes, a logo 3 herself in this one. And again, just for Sabrina's accolades, if you weren't aware, she's NCAA's all-time leader in women's basketball in triple doubles. She's such a big deal, she's got her own shoe too, and here she had a chance to show off and reconnect with her Oregon fans, and it's a really neat trend that's happening in the women's game.
Can you imagine being the voice of that Japanese team? The Antelopes are on the run.
Hey, I like this. This is working.
We could use this if we ever see the Antelopes.
Now we just got to learn the language, but
well, besides that, it's always something, right? But we got antelopes down. Well, every other year, the NCAA Men's Basketball Rules Committee, they get together and they try to figure out ways to make this game we love better. For example, they would like to see when you're going to review the out-of-bounds calls, that be a coach's challenge. Okay, that's kind of a new thing. But, Dalton, I want to bring you into this. As they went through ways to speed up the game and tighten it, you can imagine sort of the same old, right? This one I want to ask you about. They say they want to reduce physicality. Okay, you think that's really going to fly no matter what they say?
Right.
Really? I don't think so either. And also they talked about, and here's a good one, limit time spent at the monitor. This is easy. We got a shot clock, we got a pitch clock, we got every clock you need. Put a clock on that, and we got it covered.
I'm with you on that
one. There you
one.
go. The other thing I think it's interesting, which is not on the sheet here, men's basketball is the last place where there's no quarters. Mm-hmm. And I know you think maybe going to the quarters for the men would be a good idea.
Oh, I'm a big proponent of it. I think it's really helped the women's game that have also done it at this same level at Division I, whatnot. Of course, you mentioned, too, even on the men's side, the NBA, it's quarters. It's quarters for a reason. Quarters gives an opportunity for the fouls to reset at the end of the quarter. So instead of you being married to the 20 minutes of action, and let's say maybe you had a bad whistle, maybe your team came out playing a little too physical, say you pick 4 fouls up in the first 2 minutes. Well, for the next 18 minutes, you got a couple of fouls before you're sending them to the free throw line for the next 18 minutes. Instead, what if it got a nice reset? You look for 5 fouls in the quarter every 10 minutes, and you get a reset. Helps teams stay out from just going to the free throw line. That's one of the biggest complaints that basketball gets, which doesn't get a ton compared to some of the other sports, right, by spectators and viewers, is that at the end of games, there's too much time at the free throw line being spent. A way to maybe cut down on just going to the free throw line in the middle of the game for non-shooting fouls would be if you went to quarters instead of halves.
Well, there's a good argument there. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. It really is not on the table.
Right.
So we'll see. But it's going to be less physical.
That much we know.
That much we know.
Keep your boxing gloves at home, Will.
Well, I will. Anyway, appreciate everybody joining us for the show this week. And we should also note that you can find us wherever you find your podcast, like SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple. And make sure to check us out and hit subscribe. As always, thanks to the Big Ten Network. The Sports Life is produced by Dalton Shetler, and our executive producer is Wendy Hart. So on behalf of Dalton Shetler, I'm Will Tiemann, and thanks for your time.